Hi there, wormies. What comes to mind when you think of good jobs for autistic people? I bet pastor or rabbi isn't on that list. Yet somehow, Rabbi Tzemah Yoreh is thriving at the head of city congregation in New York City. So compassionate it hurts is his autobiographical account of the gifts that being autistic has given him, despite the very real and agonizing challenges it has also brought. Welcome to my channel. You've come to the right place to be your authentic, weird, and wormy self. I'm Hannah. I have autism and ADHD, and I make weekly videos rating the representation of neurodiversity in the media so you can make an informed decision on what to read or watch. Hit that like and subscribe button to join the neurodiverse bookworm family and not miss out on my latest recommendation. I came across So Compassionate It Hurts from a promoted Facebook page in 2022. The title piqued my interest because rabbi and autism were not words I ever expected to see together. And at that point, I'd been diagnosed for only about a year. So I was excited to read about someone else's experiences with the same condition. The book has a really nice feel to it. I love the soft colors and pleasing patterns on the cover. It's simple and authentic. Nothing fancy about it, which is something I really like. It's not a polished literary prize winner that the author feels unreal, unreachable. No, it's just plain and down to earth, making me feel like I could actually be friends with the author. Now, if you're not a vocabulary nerd, you might struggle a bit to read this book because of the large and unusual vocabulary Tzemah employs. And I hope I'm pronouncing his name right because I know almost nothing about Hebrew. Tzemah discovered he was autistic only when he was 28 and chanced to read the biography of another autistic in which he recognized himself. He tells of the abuses and injustices he experienced frequently as a child growing up undiagnosed. And it is because of those experiences, as well as having a son who is more severely affected, that he feels it his duty to speak up for those who can't. He says, I am so very different, and so I have striven so hard to understand others. Knowing that the world was not built for people like me, I have learned to recognize the obstacles others face as well. There is my moral obligation to all my fellow journeyers on the spectrum. As a relatively articulate member of those who inhabit the various bands of the autism spectrum, I have the duty to speak up, to become an advocate because I can, while so many of us cannot. Despite Tzemah's experiences being so very different from my own, there's many of his experiences that I can relate to as well. One of them I especially related to was his difficulty with modulating his tone of voice. He talks about his wife. Aviva always thinks I'm yelling, and that is because I am. Well, at least relative to her. I do not know how to modulate. My mother rode me hard about that as a kid, so anytime Aviva brings up my tone of voice or my voice's decibels, I become defensive. Yelling does not connotate anger for me, and that is something Aviva doesn't totally get. I raise my voice way too often, and she doesn't deserve it at all because she has never had an ill intention in her life. Yelling for me as well does not connotate anger. Very rarely does it connotate anger. Usually it means that I'm really passionate about something and I have actually forgotten to modulate the tone of my voice and think about the ways other people will perceive me. And it is something that I worry about in my relationship with my husband. He knows about these difficulties, and I'm going to try my very, very best not to yell at him in a way that he will perceive as angry. And Tzemah talks about this, the difficulties he's experienced in his marriage, as well as the things that autism has positively impacted in his marriage. It's so beautiful to read about his deep love for his wife and his children. I want to have that same passion and commitment to my own family. A running theme throughout the book is Tzemah's quest to be deliberately kind and love his neighbor as himself. He asks himself what it truly means and if he has lived up to this aspiration. What I have done is thought very deeply about the bedrock of our ethics. Love your neighbor as yourself. I'd always thought that what it meant was be polite, show empathy, and be kind. I have tried to live this way, not always successfully. Now I realize that treating others the way you would like to be treated should be refined in a very important way. Ideally, we should be treating others the way they themselves would like to be treated, and it is so very hard to know what that means, even when we are not very close to people. It is so very hard to understand others. We can try, and we should try, but we will inevitably fail quite a bit. Knowing this, realizing our ignorance, I think the best posture is to assume the best motivations of people. Assuming the best, even when we are wrong, and we are wrong often, has the potential to elevate others. Yes, we will be hurt, sometimes badly, but in the end, the world becomes a better place, a place with more goodwill, and that is one of the central goals of humanism, which is my philosophy. Being deliberately kind is actually one of Tzemah Yoreh's ways of making sense of the world. And he's made it his life's mission, even though he's failed at it so many times. Because I am neurodivergent, there is a chasm between my understanding of the world and that of others. One of the ways I have sought to bridge that chasm is by being as kind as possible. At the beginning, I would bungle this up too. Once, someone dropped money on the bus, and I hurried to pick it up for them. They thought I was trying to steal it and react angrily. Another time, I was so voluble in my offers to help a young woman that she construed it as threatening and shied away from me. Tzemah seeks to create community and is relentless in his search for truth. Being a truth teller has helped me be a good mediator. When I present one person's actions or speech to another person, I strive to present them truthfully and compassionately. In all my interactions, I try very hard not to say something about any individual that I wouldn't say to their face. Obviously, this isn't always possible, but the aspiration has served me well. This doesn't sound very autistic, you may say. This way of thinking is probably inherent to any good mediator, although they may couch it using a different vocabulary. I will never tell people what I think they want to hear. I truly don't know what they want to hear because I don't process body language well, or even verbal feedback for that matter, at least not in the moment. Instead, I present my interlocutors with a brilliant facet of the truth, and it shines with a gentle light. As autistics, we are often noted for saying the blunt truth, and perhaps some of us may be proud of that fact, but oftentimes I don't think that many of us realize that there may be more than one way to say the same thing, being truthful to ourselves while also not saying something in a way that it would put up a barrier to the other person and make them feel bad. It's a hard skill to learn, and I am still learning it. I don't want to play the game of saying what people want to hear because I'm not good at that to begin with. But I also need to realize, as he says here, that there may be different facets to the truth. I should look at other people's perspectives and seek to tell the truth in a way that would remove barriers, connect people, and create community, not drive people away, hurt their feelings, and put up barriers to hearing anything I might say further. So compassionate it hurts is hard to summarize. It's a pleasantly discordant juxtaposition of opposing forces and ideas, which I absolutely love. It's brilliant. And you can feel his anger, his pathos, his joy, his vibrancy, his love through the pages. At the end, he shares a collection of beautiful Jewish poetry. The one thing that saddened me is how the author is so anti-God. I can understand his viewpoint because I've felt the same. It's so hard to understand, let alone explain the concept of a being you can't see, especially when autistics struggle with abstractions like this. It can feel so empty and fake at times, but I have had my experiences that are unexplainable by anything other than the hand of God in my life. I can see where Tzemah is coming from, and I do hope that one day he will be able to know God, that he will see God for who God really is, and find Jesus as his loving Savior. Tzemah is a man of obvious strong moral caliber and seeks to live as best he can according to his convictions of right and wrong, and inspire others to do the same. This book is absolute proof that the stereotype of a cold, unfeeling autistic person is a myth. There's plenty of raw authenticity in this book, and it is a 5 for being so full of thought-provoking discussion fodder. He is no special snowflake, never asked anyone to accommodate him, and what he asks is for accommodations for those who cannot ask or accommodate themselves. And the only inaccuracy I really saw in here is his seeing autism as more or less autistic, as in a spectrum from more to less. He says, "I'm asking for no accommodation from society on my behalf. I've worked like the dickens to accommodate myself, and now I can ruefully laugh at the path I have taken, at the mistakes along the way. The path was hard, and it did not need to be as hard, which is why I am asking. No, that is not accurate. I'm demanding accommodation on behalf of any person who cannot, for whatever reason, advocate effectively enough for themselves, whose voices are not resonating because the deck is so stacked against them. People like my son, Elisha, who is presently on a deeper band of the autism spectrum, who may never be able to articulate his needs." So what gifts has autism brought to your life? And is there any way to turn the things you struggle with into your assets? Let me know down in the comments. And thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share. And if you're looking for more neurodiversity media content, then click here to see my latest review. Don't forget to comment what you would like to have me review next, and of course subscribe so you don't miss my latest recommendation.